We hear a lot about diversity and inclusion and representation in film and television, the emphasis nearly always being on quantity rather than quality, appearance or mere existence rather than relatability and value in the context of a story. The truth is, Hollywood has been diverse since its inception. However, it has often lacked creative talent when it comes to writing minority characters and developing their stories. Despite progress in the 80s and 90s in particular, the drive for tokenization and virtue signaling in today's industry, with underdeveloped characters and underwhelming plots, feels a lot more like regression to days of the past. And this has driven people, even in this very community, to venture out on their own, publishing their comics, graphic novels, books, and various forms of media that prove it's possible to have diversity without sacrificing entertainment and without insulting the very audience or the people group in question. But we also know there are people inside the industry or those trying to break through with original content and good stories we may never see. I spoke with Calvin Cylk Cozart, Eastern Band Cherokee, an actor, director, writer, and producer, to find out how to change this. He's done it all and is presently executive producer on an upcoming documentary, Inherit the Land, which is based on a true story. Here's what he had to say about how to get Native stories on screen in an honest, entertaining, and authentic way.
Empathy is lacking in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think because once you have the ability to put yourself in someone else's place and you really think about it, everybody's not mean and prejudiced and crazy out in Hollywood. Everybody's not. There's got to be somebody out there that's not like insane. you know what I mean? But
yeah.
So I think the question is finding that 5-10% that get it, that have power to do something. And if we're smart, let's find those people.
Of course, finding like-minded people to work with isn't always as easy as it sounds. Major stars like Chris Pratt and Gina Carano have struggled with this, and anyone trying to change the industry from the inside out has had to learn how to maneuver to get stories told that fans will enjoy, understanding that many industry execs won't be open to it.
It could be a brilliant story, but the script is not what they are used to getting. So they literally will throw it in the trash can.
At the end of the day, it takes knowledge, hard work, and cooperation to get your story told. But above all, it's about not losing sight of what it's all for once you're on the set. And once you've made it, once you're in, so to speak, it's about doing what you can to continue to rein in Hollywood's tendency to caricature and stereotype characters or make them one-dimensional checkboxes whose lives are about as relatable as cardboard. When Prey was released, for example, I noticed how even the most virulent critics of the film took issue with certain plot points, or CGI. Seldom was lead character Naru described as a Mary Sue or a mere token in the larger story. She felt like a real person, flaws and all, and there's a reason for that, which had little to do with traditional Hollywood inclination and everything to do with someone on set who actually knew something about the people and their way of life. I spoke with Comanche and Blackfoot Indian creative producer on the film, Jhane Myers, who's done a ton of work on Native film and television projects, and she described her own background as inspiration.
I'm an enrolled member of the Comanche Nation, and I grew up in our homelands, which are around Lawton, Oklahoma. So I grew up raised by my grandparents with, hearing stories that were, from my grandparents' grandparents. So I heard, stories that were like 5 generations past me.
Wow.
So I felt like I had a lot to give because a lot of our histories are oral histories, and we have the language component, and just growing up a tom girl and fighting with my 4 cousins, and we'd always go hunting and stay at the creek all day and not come home until like nighttime. So I always thought, I never thought all of this would translate into a movie, but actually, it was able to translate really well because I knew all of these things. So it was perfect. Dream job.
But even when you get a character who is diverse and entertaining because they're developed by people who actually care, Hollywood won't stop Hollywooding. Even in post-production, you have to stay vigilant and don't be afraid to speak out, as Jayne described later on.
So you need to use your voice and step up and say, hey, wait a minute, that's wrong. Hey, you have the wrong music for this,
Yeah.
I mean, just whatever it could possibly be, because I caught some things in post, and if it wasn't like for my knowledge of I've worked with Native people all across the country and in Canada, and the music that was in our trailer, they had just pulled it from like a YouTube, but it was a thing called throat singing, which is done on the northwest coast, where like Comanches are plains, and we're dealing with northern and southern plains because this whole fight happens on the Great Plains. And so I was like, oh wow, we can't put that in because that's mixing cultures. And they looked it up because I think they probably didn't. I can't say they didn't believe me, but they probably thought Jayne just said this and da 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 da. And when they looked it up, they sent me the thing, and they're like, how did you know that? Because I heard it and I knew what it was, and I was like, that's the total wrong music choice for the trailer.
What I learned from these two focused on things from a Native perspective, but ended up being lessons we can all benefit from, especially those content creators who are also writers, directors, and actors interested in changing the industry, and those inside or with connections to people inside struggling to do the same. There's no point of seeing people who look like you on screen, representation, inclusion, or diversity, if what you're shown is an insult to who you are. Why would audiences of any color care about a character if at the end of the day their story isn't meaningful in any way?
This fleet is doomed, and if my friend comes back to it, she's doomed too. I've got to get this beacon far away from here. Then she'll find me and be safe.
You're a selfish traitor.
When Hollywood gets it wrong, intentionally or otherwise, it's both the people used by them, the actors involved, as well as the audience at large, who were all denied incredible characters, diverse stories, and talent from all sorts of different backgrounds. And this is why we fight. Not as ists or as folks, but as fans longing for good stories. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the show. If so, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and members, stay tuned. There will be special cuts of the interviews for you guys exclusively dropping soon. Thanks again. Goodbye.